International Society for Education Research and Technology. Industry Institution Connect Program.
So good morning, everyone. So this particular session, which is specifically for industry interaction session. So what we have planned in ACS Institute is every week we'll have one industry person and 1 hour dedicated for the industry interaction. So today, so in that process, what we will understand is what is happening in the industry. So what are the type of requirements is there in the industry? In that particular area where the expert is there, what are their plans? How that area is going to grow? Those kind of industrial insight you will be having, so that you can be well aware of what is happening in certain areas. So we will cover multiple subjects. Today it is in CSE department, it is in pharma IT compliance thing, and next day it is the mobile technology. Other day it might be on the IoT, AI, ML. In almost in all the areas where today it is industry person, and you will have 1 hour of time in every week to interact with them. So you can ask any number of questions, and this entire program success is completely dependent on the interaction what you have with them, because they have taken time to come over here and then ready to share their expertise and experience what they have undergone in a period of 20 years of time in that specific industry. And if anything you want to understand about that industry, about the technology, about that area, this is the right time as well as the forum to interact with them and then get as much more information as possible, which is beneficial for us going forward. And this may also open up to multiple other opportunities. For example, if you are willing to do some industrial projects, internship, industry visits, and then paper publication jointly along with the industry. So there are plenty of opportunities that will open up when we directly talk with these industry people. If somebody is really interested in doing something in collaboration with industry, that would be the right forum for it. Today, as the first thing, we do have Mr. Shyam Raju, who has around 20 years of experience in the IT industry, especially in the pharma sector. And he actually has come from RV College in those days in 2001. And then he was with multiple MNCs and Fortune 500 companies, always focusing on the pharma sector. Currently, he is a delivery head for the IT development work in Johnson & Johnson. It's a very popular pharmaceutical company based out of US. He was in US for 6 years working at the Raritan facility as a project manager there to manage all the IT development which is happening. Because he will explain you, Johnson & Johnson has multiple divisions, medical devices division, corporate divisions, and then customer divisions kind of thing, where we'll get all the products what you're getting is from there only. And they have offices and development centers across the world. And there is a huge IT backbone which is sitting and managing all these operations, including logistics, including finance, including material management. Your data analytics has become very popular there. So he will throw light about what is happening in that pharma industry, especially in the IT area, and what would be the need for the pharma industry from young graduates like you. You are going to be graduates in another possibly 2-3 years. Then what is the type of opportunity will be available in that particular vertical, especially the pharma industry for IT people, and how IT people have grown. So he has been in IT for a very long time, especially in the pharma. He has almost traveled across the world. And then now he is stationed at Bangalore, managing the entire IT delivery, coordinating with 6 big companies. So he's supervising all the development work which is happening in 6 big companies, including Tech Mahindra for Johnson & Johnson. So he has grown like that. So we like to hear experiences from him, so that it will be useful for you, and it can be also a motivation for you, or it can provide you a lot of awareness for you what is happening in that particular area. And I like to open up this forum for him. And again, I thank on behalf of you all for providing his time to come and be before us. Thank you, Mr. Shyam.
Thank you, Kalyan. Thank you. Hope you can hear me. Otherwise, I can use the mic. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the time for you guys to make it here. As Kalyanam mentioned, I'm Shyam Solaraju, based out in Bangalore, working for Johnson & Johnson. It's one of the leading pharma company, managing the delivery for the whole IT infrastructure. So I don't know if you know, Johnson and Johnson has three main divisions, like pharma. Pharma is their big business. We have medical devices. So medical devices is basically all these switches and all we use for operating, right? So whenever the patient goes to operation, whatever instruments we use, we do those instruments. The third industry is the consumer divisions, like consumer products like baby shampoos. You have seen Johnson and Johnson baby soap, talc powder, Aveeno, Neutrogena. This is all our consumer products, right? So these are the main divisions for us. So these are the three divisions, business divisions for Johnson and Johnson. Uh, where IT comes into picture is basically supporting the business. So business is only we have a lot of. You can say something. Sure, sure. Yeah. So basically, we have different stakeholders in the company. Say when I say stakeholders, we have scientists. So this all pharma or consumer, everything is driven by scientists. Scientists are the people who come up with ideas, right? So they mix different raw materials, do the mix and trial, do the whatever experimentation, and do all those things, and finally come up with a final formula by doing various tests on humans or animals, everything, right? So before it even it's to the market, there's a lot of background work which happens here, right? So for all this to do, they need IT systems, right? So that's where IT people come into picture. So we develop applications or we develop products to help them do their R&D work much faster. So previously they used to do spend a lot of time on all this process perspective rather than spending effort on the R&D, right? So that's where now we IT people help them to make their life easier and they concentrate on their core area. Core area is basically do R&D, do experimentation, bring out new products to the market. So that's their core area, right? So we don't want scientists to do something on the system, right? So their core area is to basically do R&D. So this is where the IT team comes into picture, right from creating applications, making their life easier, managing the infrastructure. When we say, do you guys know what is infrastructure? What do you mean by infrastructure? I mean, you may be wrong. That's okay. There's nothing wrong and right here, right? So it's open discussion. So just be open. You know what is infrastructure from IT perspective? Building? No, no. So that's a different infrastructure. I'm talking about IT from IT perspective. So whatever, I mean, if you build an application, where do you put it? Right? You need servers, you need databases. So all this is infrastructure, right? So there need to be somebody who manages the infrastructure. So you need the system up and running every time, right? So it should not go down. So as I said, there's different components in the business where the supply chain, there is commercial, there is R&D team. So when I say supply chain, when the product is manufactured, it has to go to the market, hit to the store, right? So there are systems to manage that. So once it is done, it has to go in trucks, transport it, put it in the market, right? So these all are managed by IT team. So there is applications, there is infrastructure. There are two main components from a IT perspective. One is developing the applications. So like you have a lot of languages now, right? So Java, .NET, or now React, Angular, all this, that's a programming skill. So that's where you do programming, write applications to make the business process easier. So that business people concentrate on their core capabilities. The other area is basically the IT infrastructure. So whatever servers you need, databases you need, keep them like up and running every time, right? So that's another area. So these are the two main areas where you guys or like the future where you want to see that, right? So at the same time, today's topic, like IT compliance. So have you guys heard about the term compliance anytime? Or probably you would have seen this notice, right? Did anybody try to understand, see what it is, search what it is? So compliance is basically set of rules which is made by some governing bodies like FDA. Have you heard about FDA? Yeah, so FDA is basically in US, they set the standards for food, anything like pharma, for all the pharma industries, they define the standards saying that they have to manufacture in a like in a proper way, maintain the quality. So there are different guidelines. So compliance is basically companies operating within the set guidelines set by some governing bodies, right? So that is what compliance is. Are you able to understand or anytime if you have any questions, just let me know or stop me. Feel free to ask questions because it's a, as Kalyanan mentioned, right? So try to get more information from people like us, right? So that way, at least you are, at least get something in your mind, then you can like at least have some more idea rather than just be just listening and going back. So this is all for your benefit. So we are not going to gain anything out of this. Okay, so we have been in the industry, we have been doing this. So it's morely for you. Just make sure that you understand. If you don't understand, ask us. Or if you have any other questions, feel free to ask us. Right. So as I said, compliance, every industry in the whatever business we do, every industry has its own compliance standards. So India, there's a different governing body. EU, they have a different governing body. US has a different governing body. So basically, when we say governing bodies related to the region, they set the standards, the quality standards, everything, right? So basically, some of them are HIPAA standards, SOX standards. HIPAA is basically for health industry. So when we say HIPAA, collecting all the patient's information. So right from collecting the patient's information, storing it, making sure it's confidential, the data is not stolen by anybody. So that's what the compliance is, right? So for, from a HIPAA perspective. So when I say so collecting the data, so collecting the data, we need systems built for that, right? So we build the systems. So you have to make sure that the data doesn't go to wrong hands. So like say for example, there is your health records. So nobody wants to share their health records with anybody, right? It's only with the health providers. The doctors you go, they should own it. It should not be given to some other third party. So for that, what you should do? Exactly. So you have to build security around that, right? So that's an again IT person's responsibility. Make sure that the data is accessible to the people who should see that and does not go to the wrong hands, right? So and it is always available. So that's another thing. So if you are a patient, if you go to a surgery, the doctor wants to see what your history is. So if the system is not available, he may not be able to diagnose immediately. So every patient doesn't have the luxury to stay for like more than 24 hours, right? So it may sometimes it may be very critical. Within seconds, they don't want to get the data, right? So data availability should be there. Data security. So again, coming to data is classified into mainly two categories, right? So confidential and public is anyways nobody cares about it. If it's public, it's public, right? So everything is public. We don't care about it. But the main other two data thing is confidential and highly restricted. So do you know, like, I mean, can you guys give some examples, like what do you mean by confidential or highly restricted? Yeah, good. So yeah, so confidential is basically in medical industry, the patient information, right? In financial industry, your credit card number, your SSN number. SSN number is basically in US, similar to what your other number. It's we have concept of SSN number there. So those are confidential. When it comes to highly restricted, so mainly in pharma industry, every formula is very critical. You don't want to lose that formula, right? Because competitors, there are competitors. So you cannot say, okay, this is my formula. Next day, that product will be there out by another competitor. So these are things which is highly restricted, which is accessible only to certain people. So what do IT people do in that? Provide authorization to view the data. So build the security around that. One is give it to the right people, only give it to the right people, and other one is make it available all the time for the people who intend to see them, right? So similarly, there is SOX compliance for financial data. So this is for all the companies, right? So every company, publicly listed company, they need to maintain the financial records because there are shareholders, right? So you cannot do money laundering or anything. So that's another SOX compliance. They have to ensure that as per the standards set by the governing bodies, they have to maintain that. So there is proper record of what money is spent, where is spent, invoicing everything. So that's another one. So who sets this compliance? Basically all governing bodies, right? So that's where what is there for IT people in this, as I said, one is building the systems, maintaining the infrastructure. The other area is basically the compliance. I mean, even as part of the infrastructure, security comes in the picture, right? So one is like building firewalls, everything, but at the application level also you have to have that clear. There are so many security flaws which we see in applications. So like giving access to the right people, viewing data by only the right people. So that's where the opportunity lies for IT resources, IT people. So this is mainly the IT compliance. Similarly, there is another compliance. When I say IT, this is at a system level, right? So infrastructure system level. There's another compliance area which is called the CSV, computer system validation. So computer system validation is, it comes into picture purely on the systems you build for the business to use those applications, right? So when we say computer system validation, those systems should adhere to the standards set by this governing bodies. So when I say standards, so one example is right person should get access to the right information, right? So then when the application is created, they have to ensure that the right people can log in. So not everybody can log in, right? So that's one of the validation we do. The other validations is basically ensure that whatever business requirement is come. So what do you mean by business requirements? Do you guys know what is business requirement? So what are the different industries you're aware of? I just spoke about one industry, right? So the other industries, yeah, I mean, IT people need not just be in pharma, right? So there are other industries. What are other industries in the market? Hmm? Food industry. Technology is like across, right? So business, I'm talking about business, right? So technology is spread across the businesses. So we enable business, right? Technology basically enables business. You have bank accounts, you go to ATMs. What industry is that? Hmm? Banking industry. That's banking industry. Financial is different. So stock markets or those is that's financial, right? So different. There are different industries. So IT is not only for pharma, right? So you have scope in all the industries, but I'm speaking only from pharma testing. So when we build systems, we have to ensure that, as I said, two critical things, right? So availability of the information to the business every time, and making sure that data is protected. These are the two critical things you have to keep in mind when you build systems. So that's where the compliance comes into picture. So compliance governs that, and they ensure that these things are followed. And who comes and checks that? Because uh, there is some guidelines. I say, okay, I followed everything, right? So Is that done? There comes the role of an auditor. Have you guys heard about auditors? So auditors is basically policeman or a gatekeeper, right? So every governing bodies, they have their own auditors. So those people, once in a while, all of a sudden they come. What do they do? They say, okay, so I want to pick some system. I want to see are you guys following the process. And they sit and they verify everything. So if you pass all the audit, then you're good. Then the next level is certification. So if you have to, those are the advantages. I'll come to the advantages of why you have to follow the compliance, right? So we spoke about what is compliance, how do we use it, right? Next, after you using it, who makes sure that you're using it right? So that's when the auditor comes into picture. So every governing body, they have auditors. They come untold. I mean, they don't send any communication saying that I'm coming and visiting you. Because if they say everybody is good, right? So everybody prepares everything and keeps studying. So they don't do that. So they just come uncalled and they just start asking, okay, can I see this? So if they don't follow any standards, what is the risk? If they find out, if an auditor find out you're not compliant, or why do you want to be compliant? Why do we set standards? So let's take food industry as an example. Why do you need a governing body and set some standards? Hmm? Yeah. So will you be okay if they just send you some food packet in a packet and send it? No, right? Yeah. Somebody needs to make sure that it's quality, it's like shelf life is good, it's good for consumption, right? So that's what that's why the compliance is needed, right? So now somebody has set the rules, somebody has set the procedure. You say I've followed it, but what is the guarantee? Do we all do that? Yeah, yeah. Even I used to say I've read everything for my exams, right? But when I go to the exam and see, when I get the results, that's a different story. Yeah. So who is that person, like invigilator? That's the auditors, right? So they ensure once in a while, very frequently they visit. They ensure they do the checks and see, okay, you guys are following the process. What happens if you don't follow the process? Yeah, actions is one. So that's a small implication. The bigger implication is on people who consume, right? So like even the pharma industry, if you take pharma industry, we produce medicines. If you don't maintain the quality, there's a direct implication on the patient's health, right? So that's a bigger problem. So that's why this is very important in all the industries so that whatever comes to the consumers, it's of a good quality. Because nobody is paying less, everybody is paying money. When you pay money, they have to give us quality, right? So that's the expectation. That's the reason there's a body which does the compliance. Similarly, in pharma or any manufacturing, anything, we have something called as GXP. Go home, just note it down. GXP process, right? So excess, you can replace it with MD. What is GMP? Let's start with GMP, good manufacturing process. So all manufacturing industries, they have this standard set. When I say good manufacturing process, so this is more on a manufacturing plant. Even pharma industry, we have manufacturing because we have to produce shampoos, we have to produce tablets, we have to produce anything like soaps, everything, right? So that's a manufacturing plant. So good manufacturing practice is basically ensure there's a cleanliness in the manufacturing plant. There's a safety for the employees who are in the plant. Everybody wears a helmet. That's another one. Okay, so it's not only the consumption part. Okay, there is set of rules provided for people who are on the floor. If it's an hazardous environment where acids are used, chemicals are used, you can't go like exposing the whole body, right? So face everything. So there may be a reaction. So for that, is there a protective gear they're wearing? So these are the different standards they set. So there's a lot of areas the governing body governs, not only in manufacturing, not only one particular area. Even the people who are on the floor, they are set guidelines, safety guidelines provided. So somebody suddenly comes, just checks, and if the floor is not neat, or if even the mixing, I mean, like chemical gets mixed everywhere. So if the storage is not neat, they just cancel it. So what happens from a company perspective? You lose business, right? So if the product is not into the market, if they just put a hold, you lose a complete business. And what happens? People, from people perspective, they lose trust on the company, right? So once they lose the trust, what happens? Business is lost, and they're like, for each product, now we have 10 competitors in the market at least. Same product can be provided by 10 different competitors. Within seconds, they go to different competitors. And once they go to different competitors, it's very difficult to win back the trust. So that's why companies are very seriously following this, all the compliance part. So they ensure they follow the process. There's a lot of money spent on this. We spend, like, if we build system for 1 month, we spend 2 months for compliance, just to ensure it's built right, it's meeting all the standards, it's meeting all the security requirements. So that's where. So building is easy, making it compliant is difficult. So even from developing application also, we have to ensure that. I think I asked business requirement, so I will get an answer. So you guys know what is business requirement?
So we will give an interesting business requirement to Mr. Sham. We want to build a medicine for the continuous COVID cough which is happening today. So how will your IT systems, what are the systems will be used? So for example, the idea is we want to create a medicine for our current nominal flu which is happening today. So how IT is going to get involved in this?
So IT basically, so I mean, I take my industry, my company experience. So we have different systems which maintain the list of raw materials, the list of formulas, the list of products we have, everything, right? So as a scientist, again, we as an IT people don't decide on what raw materials to use, all these things, right? So we enable business to go and look at similar products, similar
Available in
systems,
the market.
not available in the market. We ourselves check first out in our systems. So we have built so many products, right? So for cold, we have products. And for that, what are the symptoms? And in this, what are the symptoms? So business goes into that system, searches for that particular product, searches for that particular symptoms, and they get a list of all the products there. And in that, we see, okay, in there for the new COVID, let's say COVID flu or whatever, right? So we figure out, okay, do we have any match in the existing products? If a match is there, there may be some variation. So then what they do, there's another system, formulation system, where they go into that and they try different combinations, mixing raw materials with different percentages and all that thing. And then it goes through trials and tests. And one of the tests is human test. Before that, it goes through a lot of other tests, and after that, it goes through human test. And we capture results. And again, I'll let you know this pharma industry, medicines won't come in a day or two. So it takes 1 year, 2 years, so that it goes through proper legal trial, because every human is different. So one medicine may not work for all the human, right? So, and again, we cannot build medicine which is for 100%. So we build it which is okay for majority of the people, and we do a lot of tests, trials, clinical trials, everything. And then once we get that confidence, that's when it becomes a final product and come to the market.
So in this process, what are the IT systems you are using actually for this?
So one of the system is a PDRM. One of the we call different systems. Different companies call it as different systems, but mainly the formulation system.
Okay.
Formulation system is basically first is mix the raw materials. So it will list all the raw materials we have in our company.
So that system was developed by Johnson and Johnson.
No, it's for Johnson and Johnson.
It's for
So
Johnson
we
and
IT people developed that. So we have all the list of raw materials. We know we have who supplies the raw materials, and then in that system, the scientists get into the system, and then they try different combinations. Again, the actual tests don't happen in the system, so it's more of a tracking. So saying that okay, I've started a formula, and these are the raw materials. This is a percentage I'm going to use it, and then that information goes to the lab where they mix the raw materials, put it under like stability. Like I mean, we have different in the labs. We have different like uh, shelf life. So medicine also like the expiry date we give, right? So all the products you see expiry life. So we have systems within the labs where we store those samples for again we don't keep it for 24 months or something, but we keep it for so much and we extrapolate the data. So it goes to that, and then again it comes to one of another system fusion where we capture the stability report for that because one the reason we capture all this data, IT enables those systems to capture the data is if we have to release this any medicine, anything to market, it has to get approval from these governing bodies. Without their approval, it doesn't go to market, right? So FDA, as an example, every medicine should get an approval from FDA. So that is again tracked by another system regulatory. So we put the information, there's a communication between regulatory authorities and company. So that is tracked in another system. So we build that system. So once that is done, then again it goes to the market.
So the entire manufacturing is completely supported by your IT system.
Yeah.
So while developing this IT system, for example, there may be many applications. They call it as PLM or
It's like
product lifecycle management systems. In developing product lifecycle management systems, especially from J&J, in which your department is involved, what are the different compliances you use for those IT systems?
One is security, as I mentioned. Right?
Security is
security, because that system should be accessible only to J&J employees.
J&J
So nobody from outside the world, anybody in Google, if you type, I mean, URL, basically everything is URL web-based systems, right? So if I'm not within my system, within my network, if I'm outside of my network, I can't access that system, right? So you should not access because it's J&J employees. Again, within J&J employees, the next level of security is only that particular department gets access to that. Those are the security aspects. The other one, as I said, GXP, CSV validation basically. One is GXP, good manufacturing process, that's on the manufacturing side. The other one is GDP, good documentation process. So where right from requirements till testing, right? So we capture trace. So basically the requirements should be well documented. So anybody comes and they should understand what the system should do. So when I say business requirement, since I didn't get an answer, I'll tell you what is business requirement. So what is needed by the business? So, right. So that's what is a business requirement. So we IT people won't define that. Business defines that requirement. So we build for that requirement. Okay. So they say, okay, I need this system. This is how the system should work. Well, from a process perspective, technology, they will not define the technology. We will define the technology. Okay. So we are business enablers. We don't define the requirements. So we get the requirements from business. We decide the technology. We build the requirement. We build the system as per the requirements. Right. So only building doesn't tell. So in this, the gatekeeper, as we have the governing bodies, here the gatekeepers are the testers. Testing team is there, and there's a separate technology quality people are there. So what does testing team do? They ensure they test the system once it is built against the requirements, saying that okay, these are the acceptance criteria defined. Is it meeting the acceptance criteria? They have to capture the screenshot, everything, and put it in the system. So what does TQ come into picture? There basically
What is PQ?
TQ, technology quality. So basically CSV. So they come and verify requirement is properly written, system is developed properly, testing has been done, and we have evidence that the requirement is shown in the required system. Once everything is satisfied, they give a go ahead to release the system to the business. So one is, as I said, the security aspect. Other thing is requirements, ensuring that the requirements is met. And even the infrastructure also, we ensure like proper qualification is done. IQ installation qualification is basically you have all the artifacts, you install it correctly, and the system uptime is there. If disaster recovery, I don't know if you know the disaster recovery,
Maybe you can show some light on different qualification and then.
So IQ is basically installation qualification. So when I say installation qualification, so you develop system, and I think you're still a first year guys, right? So have you done anything, any development before? Yeah. So when a system is developed, it's not a single thing we just go and deploy. So there are different components which has to be deployed in a proper sequence and everything, right? So that you document. So basically what we say is properly document everything so that anybody comes, they can pick the document and do independently. Okay, so that's what is installation qualification. So somebody develops it, he prepares a document basically saying that instructions how to install the application, right? So once they install it, then they verify. That's the installation qualification, saying that okay, all the components has been installed, and they should have a pass or fail for that. So, like, I mean, when you install something as part of the programming itself, you can see it's passed, fail, all those things, right? So, that's the installation qualification. OQ operation qualification is that once you put in the system, like, can we operate the infrastructure? Operation, basically operation. Okay, so like, is the system up? Are we getting the logs correctly? Logs is basically if the system goes down, I should have a trace of what happened so that I know where to troubleshoot the issue, right? So there is something which is getting written in the backend, so you do that, and then comes the ST system testing. That's the validation part, the testing part, and then the production deployment, final production deployment. So these are the different phases in development where it goes through different qualifications.
Okay, only if this qualification is satisfied, then FDA will give approval.
So FDA gives approval for the products.
Okay.
So this systems, FDA will not be bothered. Systems is basically the TQ people within the organization. So, but the systems will produce the evidence, systems will produce the data, which is given to FDA.
FDA.
So, so the data goes to the FDA by collecting the information from all the systems. So like formula development. So once the formula, so basically finally what happens is formula goes through different triggers, right? So on a day one, formula doesn't become reality. So it goes through a lot of trial and error. And then once everything is passed, there's a clinical test result fine, human under test, everything is fine, stability, it is sustainable for 2 years. So it goes through all those tests. Toxicology is basically when you apply on the skin, what is the reaction, right? So, I mean, you people think getting a shampoo or getting a body lotion is just seeing in a bottle, you feel it's easy, right? But there's a lot of science behind it and a lot of rigor which goes different science in the, like as I said, toxicology, sustainable, I mean, stability. You can keep the bottle within a particular temperature. So those things we test. Again, tropical region is different temperature. US is different temperature, right? So the lot of things. So just seeing the bottle on the shelf is different than understanding the science behind it and the work behind it. So we do all those tests. So we the lab, we have labs set up for that, where we change the temperature, keep the product in the temperature for so many days or months or something, and ensuring that the product thickness, viscosity, everything stays the same, right? So so that's what goes behind the scene. So yeah, once the formula is done, everything becomes a spec.
So when all these things are captured in the IT systems, so that you can submit as a report to the FDA kind of thing. So that is why your qualification compliance comes into picture. Okay. So I have, on behalf of the students, I have a couple of questions. In this huge area where a lot of things are happening, what are the prospectus for budding engineers to get into the pharma IT? Number one. Second thing is there is a lot of buzzword happening, AIML. How Johnson and Johnson is adapting to those kind of AIML journey there?
So, I mean, from an opportunity perspective, there's always opportunities. IT, again, I gave broader picture of what is needed from IT perspective here, right? So, development is there, testing area is there, compliance is another area where security is a big thing there, right? Security and even like getting the understanding you can even go on the other side of the if you're not interested or if you want to understand more on the governing body side, right? So that's another area where you can be a domain person, understand what is the different guidelines, being if you like to be a gatekeeper, right? So that's another area where they can look at that opportunity also. Or if you want to be pure IT, yeah, every business is just enabling. I mean, one of the things, but behind that, every business needs an IT. So
So
without
what I
IT, there's nothing.
What I could see is development, test is there, then security,
Yeah.
infrastructure is there, performance is also there,
Yeah.
how the application is behaving. And apart from that, in this validation engineers, that is qualification engineers. So I think J&J would have at least some 600 qualifications, 600, 700.
Yeah, more than that.
More than that, qualification engineers would be there. So what is now I leave it to you. What would be your advice for them, kind of especially for aspiring to be in the pharma, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, again, see, this is what I keep telling to the younger generation now, right? So we as Indians, we are always good at doers, right? So we do what we are told to do. That's something which we should start changing and get into innovation mode, right? So think about, so end of the day, sorry guys. So end of the day, it's basically you're solving some problem. So you should get into that mind, understand what problems we have here. Not only here, everywhere, right? So try to build something for that. I mean, see, we are, as I told, we are good at doing what we are told, and that's how all services industry is coming to India, right? So innovation happens somewhere, but we just do it. We build, say, do that, right? So start getting into that mode. You should think about that, being a problem solver, innovation, right? So understand what problems you are facing, because ours is a huge consumption market, and there's still a lot of problems which is not solved. And anything innovate, there is always good market for consumption, but it has to be a mass problem. Don't look at only problem which is like for 1% or 2% of the population. But IT, yes, you can learn, you can do that. That's not a problem. We are very good at that. We have proved it. All right. So now this generation should start getting into that mode, more on innovation, building new things, understanding problems. So just don't blindly build things. Understand what is the problem people are facing, and it should cater to mass people. So that's what you should people think. That's the key driver we should.
Yeah. Also in today's market, which is the Indian company which is coming up very well in comparison to HR and all other systems. Have you heard about Zoho?
Zoho.
It was started by one Mr. Sridhar Vembu, and it is competing with all US products. Especially Workday is the largest HR product being used in all corporates. Now Zoho is slowly coming into that kind of thing. So plenty of people are getting employed. So it may become very big. We should start building those kind of innovative products. Then, see, I used to sell apart from this, telling this all the systems what we are using today, laptops, mobile phones. These are the key things. And we have our hard-earned money, our parents are earning hard. But where are we going and giving the money? We are going to give it to Dell, HP, Lenovo. So we should have some sort of thought process that we need to have our own products also. That is where we are lagging in the world, because the entire world has now found India is a very big market for them. Consumer market. So they are all coming here to sell their products. We are all working for them to build their products. But all the money is mostly going to them. We give 5 years tax holiday, 10 years tax holiday. They come and set up their shop here, give employment for 1,000 people. But their top line and then revenue thing is very high in the US or UK or wherever it is. So our generation should start thinking on those lines. We have to build products so that we can become the world leader, because we have the resource here. I think slowly the new education policy 3.0 is also facilitating that. Lot of innovation, lot of internship for you, lot of, now every semester they're asking you to do mini project intern. The reason is that to get exposed to the system and industries what is there today, so that you can think innovatively. That's why your innovation council is there. It's not just for the namesake. The purpose of having innovation council is to bring up new ideas so that you can be the market or world leader in those areas. So that is the thing. And this is a small initiative by the thing to bring industry people in front of you so that you'll get awareness about what's happening in those industry, how systems are working, that kind of thing. So now it's open to you. Any questions you can ask Mr. Shyam. So not related to anything related to IT, so that it will be useful. Yeah, anybody there? No questions. Yes.
What are all the other challenges that IT person face other than storing and settling the data?
So again, R&D is not with IT. So when you say R&D, product R&D, you're saying, yeah, R&D is not with, as I said, it's mainly with the scientists. Scientists go through the process. So
No, I think he's asking a generic question. R&D for products also,
he's
or you're
asking that
talking
IT
only for pharma
IT for he's saying IT. So
as a product.
so
As a product. So we want to build new products, right? He's asking from that perspective.
yeah, that's what. So that's more on the scientists, right? So we don't get into building the products. We enable the systems to help them build the products. So scientists are the one who goes through that, as I said, different experimentation, different trials. So they go through that process. So IT people are not involved in the R&D part. So we enable the system which helps them to go through the process.
To answer some of your question, you told security and other area involved. Another important thing is creating algorithms. Today, AI is becoming popular because of that. So algorithm, earlier it used to be the scientist job, but now it has become the IT people job. A lot of people, I think in mathematics, you would have heard this, what you call forward interpolation, backward interpolation. All this forward interpolation and backward interpolation is becoming a, what you call this kind of formulas now, or they call it as algorithms. Because the entire AI is based on algorithms. So you start building algorithm, train the algorithms, put it into practical use by putting multiple data on it. If it works, fine. Even if 80% it works, that's a very good algorithm. I think that is where a lot of data scientists are getting created. Data scientists are people who understand the real world problems and then build algorithms based on that. And then use it in the system so that it will go and give predict. I think ChatGPT is, I think everyone will be using ChatGPT, right? Hope you will not write exam with ChatGPT. I think that will also come in the future. It's giving everything. On flip side is it will not make you think hereafter. So your thing will become dormant and that will take care of everything. So
Hope
that is the kind of
hope that doesn't happen.
hope that doesn't happen. So that's what to answer your question, algorithms. That's becoming a part and part of IT people's thing today. Okay, thank you for your time. Hope it's not boring. Something useful was there. What is your feedback? Is it useful or? Okay.
I mean, don't be just a regular student saying whatever teacher asks, right?
Because we are all come, it should be useful for you
Yeah,
as well as
exactly.
for us. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. You're wasting time, we are wasting time. But it should be a mutual thing so that you can hear a lot of things, what is happening practically and what you are seeing in your, because you have much more information than what we have.
Exactly.
Because we are working only on limited scope, but you are studying everything.
I mean, your generation is lucky enough to have information on fingertips, right? So just Google it, you get everything. So I would recommend you guys start looking into those things, right? So start reading stuff so that you understand what are different industries and what is happening in each industry, what are the opportunities in different industries, so that you're capable of deciding what you want to do now, right? So there's a lot of information at your fingertips. Uh, so start using that in a right way. Understand different opportunities and start preparing for that. And talk to right people, uh, get guidance from those people. So unfortunately, we didn't have all these opportunities at that time, right? So utilize those things in a good way and yeah, get prepared for the industry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.